Okay, we're holding Parashat Vayishlach, Yaakov, Malachim, Lefanav, and Esav. The very first Pesukim in Parashat Vayishlach, you see Yaakov making preparations on how to meet Esav by sending him a gift, and by praying, and by preparing a strategy for war if everything else fails. So the Chachamim tell us that we can learn from this that in all our dealings with Esav, with the enemy, that is the correct approach. Doron, Tfilah, Milchama. Doron means a gift. Try to appease the man. Try to bribe him, if possible. Bribe, you might think. You might say, oh, you're allowed to bribe? Yes, Esav accepts bribes. So that's the way we deal with them. Especially, since many of the times that they persecute us, it's out of hatred, it's out of no good reason. So bribe might be the only way possible. And if that does it, then it's mutar. Right? Even though the Torah is against bribing. With Esav, that may be a good approach if it works. So at least to attempt sending him a gift. If that does not work, at all times, regardless, one needs to prepare with tefillah, with prayer. Pray to Hashem. And unfortunately, not always do we receive an answer from Hashem. So we have to prepare for milchama. Worst comes to worst, one needs to defend himself and not to rely on miracles. So Yaakov, even though he's a tzaddik, even though he was promised by Hashem, I will protect you, amongst other blessings, amongst other promises that he promised him, nevertheless, he does not take a chance. Now, the fact that he does not take a chance does not mean that his faith is lacking, that his emunah is weak. He does not think of himself as a tzaddik. And as we will soon see, he had certain concerns. We'll talk about that soon. But in the meantime, what we see from Yaakov is that this is the approach that everybody needs to take in every situation that one finds himself in trouble with the enemy, with Esav, Doron, Tefillah, Milchama. These three approaches are not only with the real physical enemy that one may have, it is also an approach that one can use with his most powerful enemy of all. Who is that? The Yetzer Hara. That is the most powerful enemy of all because he's there all the time. And even if you beat him, he comes back. You can't destroy him completely. He lies in ambush. He's there every day to meet you, to greet you. And he's there until the last day of one's life. So Yetzer Hara is the most powerful enemy, and one can use these three approaches. How does one use the three approaches? So Doron, which means gift, how is that applied? So our rabbis tell us, if you're very depressed, why? Because you've done many, many sins in your life. What should you do about it? Don't be depressed. Aseh kenegdan havilot shel mitzvot. Do opposite them bundles of good deeds. So hopefully the bundle of good deeds will neutralize the bundle of avirot. So the bundle of good deeds is in a way like a bribe. It's not a bribe, but it's a gift or a way of atoning or of neutralizing the avirot. You did something bad, how do you deal with it? Do something good. One of the best things to do, by the way, is learning Torah. Because in the olden days, the Dig Mekubalim, and even before the period of the Kabbalah, the rabbis many times engage themselves in fasting, because fasting is very powerful to atone for a sin. But the rabbis in the most recent generations have told us that today we are a weak generation, we cannot handle all the fasts, it's too difficult, it would interfere with our learning. It is best to make up for the fast by giving tzedakah by learning Torah. So this is one way to deal with avirot. Head on, like they say, do kenegdan havilot shel mitzvot. Another way of dealing with the Yetzer Hara is through tefillah. In other words, when we talked about havilot shel mitzvot, we're doing many mitzvot, that not only is a kapara, but it's also a way of dealing with the Yetzer Hara. Because you are not letting him depress you. Depression is from the Yetzer Hara. So by doing havilot shel mitzvot, by continuing to do so, you are weakening the Yetzer Hara as well. Now, with tefillah, is very important. That is why they put it into the Sidur, Anshe Knesset Gdolah, Tatzilenu Yetzer Hara, Pegara, Sinat Abriot. The rabbis included in the prayer, one of the items that one should ask for is Hashem should save us from the Yetzer Hara. What do you mean He should save you? He should help you. You have to help yourself. But obviously, what we're asking for is Hashem should not put us in challenging situations where it becomes more difficult for us to succeed. It's very easy to fail if one is by himself in a place where nobody can see, and he can do all sorts of avirot. That is an nisayon, a challenge for him. So we have to Hashem save us from these situations. We don't want the reward for succeeding the challenge, and we don't want the challenge. Hashem says, I'll reward you if you pass. I'd rather not have the test. That's the best response.
And you weaken the Yetzer.
Yes. So now I'm going to talk about that. So one way of weakening is by doing mitzvot. The second one is by praying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that He should not put you in these situations, that you should have to fight a big fight with the Yetzer Hara. Because remember, if the Yetzer Hara is on the outside, you can protect yourself. Once you let him inside the home, it's very difficult to deal with. Now let me give you an example where this is unfortunately a big problem today. There's a lot of people who are observant, who, Chaz v'shalom, they will not buy a pornographic magazine. They will not bring it into their home. Chaz v'shalom. They don't even have a TV. They will not go to a movie and see all this garbage. But they have a computer. And on the computer they're connected to the internet. And when they're watching their internet, nobody sees them. You could have a laptop. You could take it into the bathroom. That's what I've heard stories of people do certain things. Nobody can see. And there's a big Yetzer Hara. Whoever has that Yetzer, that curiosity or that desire, it might come to his face, whether he wanted it, asked for it or not. Now, if you did not go to these places, you can deal with the Yetzer. It's not as powerful. But once you see it, it's much more difficult to deal with the Yetzer Hara. So don't put yourself in a situation where you might be tempted, either out of curiosity or out of desire, to deal with it. So don't let the Yetzer in the house. Once he's in there, it's much more difficult to deal with him. That is what we ask Hashem by prayer, also to help us in this situation. And the third is very important as well. That's milchama. Ultimately, if you do find yourself fighting with Yetzer Hara, you have to prepare yourself to fight. Now, a Jew has several protections. The fact that he does mitzvot throughout the day, he puts on tzitzit, he puts on tefillin, he learns Torah. These are protections. He creates angels by the mitzvot. He sets up barriers. This is his milchama. But that may not help him. Sometimes the Yetzer Hara defeats all of that and tries to convince him. Even at that moment, a person should remember what the fight is all about. As the rabbis tell us, you see the Yetzer Hara is after you and you're having a very, very tough time with him, pull him into the Bet HaMidrash. That's a good way of dealing with it, because the Torah will weaken him. If that does not help, remind him the Yom HaMavet. In other words, remind yourself, but I'm going to be in the grave soon. Does this pay for me to have the benefit and enjoyment of 1 minute of an Averah, to lose Olam Haba, or to have Gehenom? In other words, try to think in that respect. In other words, there's various approaches that the rabbis tell us may work with the Yetzer Hara. People used to either run to the Bet HaMidrash if they felt that the Yetzer Hara was after them, or they would, perhaps go to a cemetery and look at the grave. There are various things that you can do that would remind you that what you're about to do does not pay. That is why in Pirkei Avot it says, look at 3 things and you will not easily sin. Remember where you come from, where you're headed, and before whom you have to give an account for all your deeds. A person, of course, who does not think about this may jump to an Averah. But if he takes his time to think, consider, there is a better chance that he might make a wise decision and let go of it. Whether the Averah involves stealing money, killing somebody, whether it involves telling Lashon Hara about him. Not necessarily arayot, not necessarily an adulterous act. Everybody has a different yetzer. Regardless, if you find yourself in a situation where you are tempted, one of the most tempting things is to answer back. Somebody insults us, we answer back. We yell at them, and we may even curse them, halila, or say things. That is the most tempting thing, by the way. That is a big avon too.
Revenge.
Yeah, revenge. So all of that requires a foresight, to think about it, and to think about Yom HaMitah, or to be Koveitim LaTorah, which is one of the most powerful things. So this is the way of dealing with the Yetzer Hara, with these 3. Doron, Tfilah, Milchama. And obviously the prayer, which is done with tears, is even more powerful, because it makes a bigger roshem, a much more of an impression upstairs. The rabbis remind us that in the fight against the Yetzer Hara, there's going to be aliyot v'yeridot, there's going to be upswings, there's going to be downturns. A person is going to be very strong, very high for a number of days, weeks, or months. And there could be a time where the Yetzer Hara might push him down. Don't be discouraged. Don't despair. Go back up. Go back up there. Because that is quite human nature, to go up and to go down. It's like a graph in the stock market, like that, going up, right? Going up all the time is a very rare thing. People tend to go down, and don't despair, because that can easily happen. At the end of the year, hopefully, we can look back and say, I've grown. But in a week period, in a month period, in 2 months, it could be up and down. Hopefully by the end of the year, when we compare ourselves how we were last year, how we're this year, hopefully we're a little bit better this year than the past year. We've improved, we've advanced. The next point that is significant, which is really tied to Parashat Toladot, nevertheless it's significant here, is that the rabbis tell us the koach of Yaakov is bakol. Hakol kol Yaakov vayadai midei Esav. Right? That's Yitzchak's reaction when he hears the voice of Yaakov, but he feels the hands of Esav when he touches him. Who are you? You're my firstborn. You speak like Yaakov. You have the voice of Yaakov, so nice, so soft. You use the name Hashem. Bezrat Hashem, B'yitzeh Hashem. Esav never talked like that. So I'm confused, Yitzchak said. So he gets closer, he kisses him, he smells his clothing, and he sees this is Esav, this is his clothing. He didn't think, of course, that this is a trick. So the rabbis learned from that expression, Hakol kol Yaakov ve'ayidai midei Esav. The power of Yaakov is in his voice, in his speech, in his Torah. And as we learned before, all the berachot that he received from his father were conditioned that he learns Torah. So the rabbis say, if Hakol yeh kol Yaakov, at the time when the Jewish people learned Torah, en hayadai midei Esav. The hands of Esav cannot rule over us. If they make a decree, Hashem cancels it. It will have no effect. But Halila, if Hakol eno kol Yaakov, if there's no kol of Yaakov in the Batei Midrash, Batei Knesiyot, in the places of learning, then hayadai midei Esav. Then that is when Esav has the ability to cause problems. Now, throughout history, there have been problems. There have been many pogroms, many persecutions. Many of them from Esav, some from Ishmael and other nations. They're not all for the same reasons. But what they have in common is a lax attitude towards Torah. In other words, if the Torah would be very, very strong, many of the problems would have been avoided. When a Jew learns Torah, he's able to weaken his yetzer. He's able to have the right hashkafot. He's able to see things in the right perspective. It helps guide his life. It brings beracha to his house. That is why the rabbi tells us, every home that there's no Torah heard, fire will destroy it. Because the Jew's livelihood, his whole survival depends on Torah, on transmitting the Torah to future generations. So we can't be without Torah. This is our greatest weapon, and also a very important, besides being an important mitzvah, it's one of our greatest weapons against the Yetzer Hara. So anyway, this is the best segula for weakening the Yetzer Hara. A person who learns Torah regularly, he's occupying his time, not killing his time, and he's weakening his tavot, his desires. I guarantee you and I assure you, any time that a person learns Torah for a good half an hour, he comes home, he doesn't have the same desire or interest to do shtuyot, to do silly things. How could I waste my time in that? It was so much more beautiful, more precious to sit down and learn a midrash, a gemara, a halacha. So it really gives us strength, it recharges our batteries. A weekend, right? Okay, so let's get back to Yaakov now. So Yaakov has concerns. Esav is approaching. What is he afraid of? Hashem promised him. Hashem will protect us. Doesn't Hashem protect us? Shomer Israel. The Hashem does afford his protection. So why should somebody be concerned at all? Especially Yaakov, who was promised. He's a tzaddik. So I told you, a tzaddik never believes in himself. Tzaddik never thinks he's a tzaddik. He's always concerned. But what are his concerns? Yaakov had mainly two concerns. Concern number one, maybe Esav has a zechut that I don't have. What was the zechut of Esav? The merit that Esav may have had that Yaakov had lacking. Kibud avayim. For over 20 years, Yaakov was not at home. He did not honor his father and mother. He wasn't disrespectful, but he didn't have that mitzvah, that zechut. And Esav was very, very good in that area. So Yaakov was concerned about this zechut that Esav had won him. That may give him perhaps a reason, was a better chance against me. But the real reason, the most important reason why Yaakov is concerned is not so much that. Is that Yaakov says, Katonti mikol hasadim. Kadosh Baruch Hu has done with me, performed with me many miracles, has done with me a lot of acts of kindness. And as a result of that, I'm concerned that because of all the acts of kindness and miracles that he did for me, I have less zechuyot now, because they've been used up. And maybe, and so what?
So what's the big deal? Why should you need a zechut for a miracle? Well, Shema yigrom achet. Maybe I did commit a sin. So if a person would have zechuyot, then even if he did a sin, the zechuyot can cover for it. But if a person does not have them any zechuyot left, committing a sin could be a gorem, it could be a factor in him losing a battle. So one always has to be concerned, Shema yigrom achet. Maybe I did commit a sin, and for that sin alone, Hashem may not make me win the battle. Especially the other side has more zechuyot. Hashem looks at the overall situation. What's the other side? What's the status of the other side? He's okay, he has zechuyot. This one, he has committed several hatayim, and he has no zechuyot left. He used them up. That's a major concern. That is why the rabbis tell us, Lo lismoch al hanes, never rely on this. Even if you deserve miracles, if you ask for the miracle, they take away from you zechuyot. If you ask for it. If Hashem likes you, and you're in a big madrika and a big tzaddik, then that miracle may not take away from your zechut. But if a person threw himself off a 10-story building, says, Hashem will protect me if he wants to, and there was a miracle, nothing happened to you, that miracle, because they performed a miracle that was not necessary, it's going to cost you. So here Yaakov says, I have had many miracles, many hasadim, but my zechuyot are gone. They've been used up perhaps, maybe because I don't deserve them. Or I may have performed the chet. So for sure, in that case, if there's no zechuyot, and there's also hatayim, shema yigrom achet, the chet may cause me to lose a battle with Esav. That is Yaakov's concern. So when a person goes to battle, he goes especially as a soldier in the army, he has to be concerned about his ma'asim more than anybody else. Why? Because that is a makom sakana. And in makom sakana, in a dangerous place, you need zechuyot to be saved. If you're walking down Beverly Boulevard on the street, Hashem does not necessarily have to make miracles for you. Why? Because who says that at that hour, at that moment, some gangsters is going to go by and rob you and hold you up? LA is a big city. They can be 10 miles away from here and you would never know. Or they can be there right before you came, or you can be there right before they came. For you to be there at the exact moment, like you say in English, to be at the wrong time, at the wrong place, wrong time, right? Yeah. There's no coincidences. Hashem wanted it like that. He brought it like that. So we don't have to expect it, but to purposefully and intentionally go into a makom sakana, to take a walk in Watts at 2 o'clock in the morning, that is not advisable. You're asking for it. Okay? So that is why the rabbis tell us, a person who puts himself in danger, pinkaso niftach. Pinkaso is his book. His file is open. What does that mean? Usually a person's file upstairs is not open except for Rosh Hashanah when they examine it. Bipur. But there are times that a person can force the Bet Din Shel Mala, to open his books. One is if he puts himself in a sakana. Another is if he speaks Lashon Hara. The person who speaks Lashon Hara says, you speak about him, that means you're judging him, then you're asking us to judge you. Who are you to judge him? Lashon Hara is therefore very, very dangerous. Not only is it a terrible sin, it's dangerous. It's like asking the judge, I want a day in court. Have you heard that? A day in court? Wait till Rosh Hashanah. No. I want it now. You want it now? Okay, you asked for it. So a person can be in court every day if he speaks Lashon Hara. That is what they mean, Pinkaso Shel Adam Niftach. A person has to avoid putting himself in situations, if he can at all, not to put himself in danger, because that will allow the Bet Din Shel Mala to examine, to open his books, to look into it to see, should we perform a miracle for this man? So even though it's true that every bullet, as they say in Hebrew, has its address, that is a true saying, when there's a time of war, bullets can fly all over the place. There's shrapnel. You heard what happened today in the morning. The Americans threw a bomb, and it killed several Americans by mistake. And how far were they? 100 yards. 100 yards away, 300 feet away, and it still got killed. From what? Shrapnel. Or from whatever. Right? So war is dangerous. So because war is dangerous, you need zechuyot. People get killed, especially at the front. Much more dangerous. You need extra zechuyot, extra merit to have their protection. That is why, we will see later on, the brothers of Yosef eventually agreed to throw him into a pit. What was in the pit? Snakes and scorpions. But so how does the Torah say that their whole intention to throw him into a pit was to spare his life? Spare his life. This is just as dangerous. Snakes and scorpions, so the Zohar says, there's a big difference. Because when Yosef was in the hands of his brothers, he was in the hands of human beings who have free will to kill. They have free will. When he's in the pit with snakes and scorpions, he's with animals that have no free will. Animals do what Hashem tells them to do. Unless you step on a snake, and you basically asked for it, if a snake bites somebody, it's because Hashem sent it. It's a shaliach. If a man kills somebody, it doesn't have to be that Hashem sent him. But sometimes Hashem, of course, is merciful, performs a miracle, and the gun jams. Because this man doesn't deserve to die. He's a big tzaddik. Or I need him around for whatever reason. His children have to come to this world. But not everybody's like that. Not everybody's on that level. You need a tremendous zechut to therefore be saved from the free will of a human being. Somebody therefore robs you, chas v'shalom, assaults you, carjacks you, don't put up a fight. Because Halila, one may not have the zechuyot to be saved from the free will of a human being. So that's also a situation where it's makom sakana. The pinkas is opened up. A soldier in Lebanon at the time when there was battle. Should we make a miracle that the bomb should land and not explode, as it happens sometimes? The shell does not explode. Should we make another miracle that he shouldn't even be there? He should miss the bus, right? There's all sorts of heshbonot. Does he deserve it or does he not deserve it? His pinkas is open. So a person should not put himself in this kind of a situation where they are examining his books. Yaakov was in this kind of a situation. He had no choice. So he had to do whatever he had to do. But to intentionally go to a makom sakana, it's not advisable. Who's another individual that is putting himself in danger? Hanuder ve'no meshalem. Person who makes a promise and does not keep his promise. So long as he does not keep his promise and a good amount of time has transpired, he's putting himself in trouble. An unpaid promise, whether it's financial or not, is very dangerous. For that alone, a person could lose his life even, or could have some other loss, whatever. Obviously, if you could say Belina, that's even better. Okay, so what should a person do, therefore, to avoid as much as possible getting caught in danger? There's so much we can do. What's the best thing to do? After all, from time to time, we may be involved in a car accident, Halila, we may be involved in all sorts of dangerous situations. What should a person do? David HaMelech says in Tehillim, Avon akevai, lama irara, avon akevai yisubeni. Why should I fear evil? Because David was concerned. Avon akevai, the sins of my heel have surrounded me. The sins of my youth, the sins that I have done regularly, that I perhaps not have done complete teshuvah for, they surround me. They are always accusing me. A person has to therefore constantly do teshuvah on something that he did in the past. Because he does not know if that teshuvah that he did 3, 4, 5 years ago is complete or not. Maybe it was not complete. You regret it, but maybe you need to do more teshuvah. So one should always be doing teshuvah for what he's done in the past. When does one know that he's forgiven completely? It's very difficult to tell, but there is one way according to the Kabbalah, that if one sees that the Yetzirah no longer disturbs him with that particular Avodah that he used to do, he's not put into a challenge, he's not put into a situation where that reintroduces itself, the opportunity to sin, and he doesn't think about it, he has no desire for it, and he still has the same strength, the vision, the intelligence, the mind, and the opportunities to do it. Not that, he did it when he was 20 and now he's 85 on a wheelchair. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about that he can and he has the opportunity and he does it. It doesn't bother him, in other words. So if one is not bothered for it, that means that he almost erased every vestige, every zecher of that avon, and therefore it's very possible that Hashem will receive his teshuvah. In other words, his teshuvah is complete. So it's a good idea that is what we say Slach Hanavino 3 times a day. For anything that has transpired, besides the fact that a person should always do teshuvah since he doesn't know when he will pass away. And you always want to do teshuvah and say vidui before, because at that moment There may not be an opportunity. It may be a stroke like that. Forget it. Right? Kol ma'huda chas v'shalom. So teshuvah constantly is a good thing. It helps to break the yetzer. It helps to remove any stain, as long as it's done properly, stains from the aponot. And it helps one become closer to Hashem. That is the meaning of the word teshuvah, lashuv, to return to Hashem. So what do we do if somebody is in trouble, and he did everything, and he doesn't know anything that he did wrong, it's not obvious to him? What should he do? So the rabbis tell us it's a good thing to get used to blaming yourself and not blaming Hashem. A lot of people have the attitude, Hashem, why are you doing this to me? What's wrong? Why is this so cruel? The Holocaust is an example, even though that's a very extreme example because it affected many people. How could you do this? Why are you blaming him? Why don't you blame yourself? What happened September 11th? Everybody's blaming the Arabs. Why did you ask yourself, why is this happening? What's the source of this? Why were they successful? When somebody hits you in your back, don't you look around? They didn't do that. They didn't look around. Why did somebody do this? Perhaps we need to do teshuvah. No, they don't think in that direction, unfortunately. So that's what the rabbis encourage us to do in order to avoid any troubles of all sorts. Why wait for the trouble to come and start examining? Do teshuvah at all times. But if something does happen, don't blame Hashem. If it did happen, blame yourself. Maybe bitul Torah, maybe something else. Kol b'shamayim, of course. But why? Well, now I want to know why. It's not possible to know exactly what, but at least the blame laid on yourself. In other words, Mipi elyon lo tetzeh ra'ot, the pasuk says. Hashem ra'ot doesn't come down. Bad doesn't come down from upstairs. It's we who did something as a people or as individuals who brought it upon ourselves.
So we might think it's bad, but in the long term it's good.
Right, of course. In the end, everything is good. Because even Yisurim, punishment, pain, suffering, is kapara. You see? So nothing is really bad. Even if it's Yisurim, which appears to us as bad, in the end it's like medication. It may be bitter, but it saves your life. Even an amputation, which is not such a good thing, but it saves your life, if necessary, right? So when something does happen that's no good, even you prayed, even you did everything else, don't blame Hashem, blame yourself. All right, another important issue that we can discuss at this point in Parashat Vayishlach is the root of anti-Semitism. Rabbis tell us, Halacha, Esav Sonel Yaakov.
Can I go back a second?
Huh?
Don't blame yourself.
Yeah.
So
Don't blame Hashem. Blame
don't
yourself.
blame Hashem. But I say to myself, call me Shamayim, so I'm not blaming Hashem, but I know He wants it. If not, I wouldn't have done
No,
it.
Hashem, that's right, Hashem wants it this way, but we don't blame Him for initiating something. He doesn't initiate
You
suffering.
put an investment in the wrong place.
Yeah.
How this idea came into mind.
Yeah,
So,
That could be part of the mazal too. The person's mazal is not to make millions of dollars. He may not succeed.
but to satisfy yourself, you try to find out, you go, you pay, you do everything, and this happened to you. So you have to console yourself. To console yourself, you're going to say, okay, I accept. I'm not blaming.
We always accept, right?
I accept, but
Right.
I know it's coming from there. Maybe I look at it bad now, but maybe in the long run it's going to be.
It's always going to be a kol tova.
Yeah.
Everything is for the good.
But I cannot. I don't think I can blame myself.
Well, you could have avoided it. The question is, could I have avoided this experience that I had a terrible experience with a neighbor? Of course, you could have avoided it. Perhaps if you wouldn't have done something else, you wouldn't have had this problem. Person was never audited by the income tax, by the IRS. 1 year he's audited. You should think about it. Maybe he didn't give enough tzedakah. Maybe he spoke Lashon Hara about someone, and now somebody told on him. There's various possibilities. So we can always try to examine
allowed
ourselves.
by Hashem. I mean,
Of course, Hashem permitted it, or He sent it. Either Hashem permits it, He doesn't interfere,
accept.
or He actually sent it. So we always accept it. However, there are certain things that I'm saying that you can avoid. They don't have to come. You can avoid. So a person who constantly does teshuvah to correct his avonot, he's better off. There's even a piece of advice that is brought down in the Sefarim that before one goes to sleep every night, he should do a hashbon hanefesh of what transpired during that day. Not wait till Rosh Hashanah before.
Go on a whole year, live a whole year, do everything. Then it's like, well, now I have to make a whole cheshbon. No, do cheshbon every day. And get rid of that cheshbon that day. Don't let it accumulate. Then it becomes more difficult, and then you lose track of why is this happening.
You will do it, huh?
Yeah. It's part of the Shema. You could say it. You could add it, or use your own words. Okay, so Esav sonet Yaakov. Why does Esav hate Yaakov? So the Rabbi says halacha is a halacha. Halacha meaning you can't change it. That's a fact. That's the way it is, and it will always be. Esav hates Yaakov. Why? So we have several explanations. The simple explanation brought down in the Midrash that why is it called Sinai mountain? Sinai, Sham yarda sin'a la'olam. Over there in Sinai, hatred came down to the world, which means the Jewish people, by receiving the Torah, by being different than the rest of the world, that in itself causes hatred. Jealousy. That's the simplistic reason. You can expect, to a certain degree, that there will be some hatred and jealousy because of that. But being apart, being successful, and so forth. But there's some hatred that is brought about because of our own actions. We stand out. We show our money. We show off. That also brings out their anger and their hatred towards us. So you have to be careful to be modest, not to show one's wealth. Like Yaakov tells his children, Al titra'u. Later on we'll see. Don't don't appear in public looking in a certain way which will bring out their anger, the goyim's anger. But the third explanation of why Esav sonet Yaakov is directly related to Hashem's wishes. As the Navi says, Oy Ashur shevet api. Ashur, Assyria, you are the whip of my anger, Hashem says. He uses them as a whip. He uses the goy as a whip to remind the Jew, you're not behaving yourself, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. So many times actually, not just sometimes, many times, the goy's anger, especially the actions as a result of that anger, are directed towards the Jew strictly because Hashem tells him to. Now Hashem, of course, did not actually tell him to. Hashem, when he punishes a Jew, sends him a human being that would anyway want to do bad. It's a shidduch. Otherwise, if Hashem would instruct the goy to punish, the goy could never say, the goy might say, I'm innocent, I didn't do it, Hashem told me to do it. No, you wanted to do it anyway. All I did is bring the two of you together. Hashem knows that this individual, if he becomes mayor or president, he'll be a brutal guy. Hashem has a reason to go after the Jewish people, Halila. He'll make him mayor, he'll make him the sultan, he'll make him the king. And then, as a result of his powers, he will carry out Hashem's plan, because that man wants to anyway harm the Jews. All he needs is an opportunity.
Spain was so good with Torah and everything.
Right.
How come we had this Ferdinand and sure. But we had Torah, we had everything.
Yeah, but they were very arrogant. It's mentioned. They were very arrogant, and the women went out very arrogantly dressed. And many times also throughout the history in Europe, also there was the Kubalim said that there was also lack of tzniut. So there could have been more than one factor, not necessarily one. More than one factor that brought about all the tzarot, all the treason and terrible pogroms. Okay, last 2 points is what David HaMelech says, Hashem li be'ozerai v'ani yireh b'sonai. Hashem, you help me with my helpers, and I will deal with my enemies. Very strange words, huh? Listen to what he says. Hashem, help me with my helpers, and I will deal with my enemies. What does that mean? Yaakov prays to Hashem, Atzileni miyad achi miyad Esav. From my brother, from Esav. There's sometimes people who behave and act as though they are your brothers. They're your friends. They want to help you. But they're really your enemies. They're hypocrites. They're smulim. You don't know that. They will stick a knife behind your back when you're not seeing, when you're not looking. Hashem, David HaMelech says, Hashem li be'ozrai, help me with those who want to help me, because I don't know their true intention. I can handle those who are my true enemies, because I know them. I recognize them. If you recognize somebody in several languages,
I think my enemies, my friends.
The saying goes like this. In English, the saying goes something like this. It's a Nigerian expression. I saw it in the books, and it's from Nigeria, but it goes like, but they take everything from us. God help me with my friends. I'll take care of my enemies. Something like that. Help me with my friends, because I don't know who my true friends are. They smile at you, they hug you, and they say, Kif halak, how are you? And they have coffee with you. All smiles, and I've seen this all over the world, but especially in certain communities more than others. They're professionals. They don't mean it, but they do it as a result of either politics or benefit, or it looks right. But then they definitely, after you're gone, lashon hara on you, do things against you. You think they're your friends. They're your, but we don't know who they are. Hashem li be'azra, Hashem help me with my helper, but I will take care of my enemy. So this is also here. This is Yaakov has to deal with a situation where it's his own brother. Nevertheless, even if it's your own brother, sometimes it's unpredictable how he will deal with you. If he was clear to me, it would be easier. But sometimes things are not clear. What's the point of therefore? The point is to be careful of tzvuim, of hypocrites. As we've said in the past many times, the rabbis tell us, Kafdeo v'hashdeo. Give respect to every individual, but be suspicious of him too. Never fall for it. I don't care if he has a long beard till his ankle, and peot just as long, and he prays like this by shaking his body, and the amidah lasts for 45 minutes. I would not trust him. No, to trust somebody, you have to earn a reputation. You have to earn it. It has to be a good reputation. Don't go by outer looks, and don't deceive yourself even by brief encounters. It takes a long time to get to know a person. And that happens, unfortunately, with marriages too. Men fall in love. They literally fall. They fall because they fell in love. They fall. What do you mean they fall? What do you mean fall in love? There's no such thing. You can't get to know a person too well until you live with them, and you've seen them under various situations, various circumstances, how they act and how they react. They look beautifully on the outside, the shell, but inside it's all rotten. And there was a story of how a man caught his wife cheating when he left the house, and he told her he was going away for several weeks, and then he immediately came back a couple hours later in the evening, and he looked through the door of his bedroom, and he saw her with a goy in the bed. See? He thought she was a tzedekah, but he started suspecting. And the reason he started suspecting is because his father, before he passed away, told him, be careful of people who show extreme modesty, or extreme hasidut. Anyway, what happened, to make the story short, is the boyfriend saw him and ran out, by instructions of his wife, to kill him. So he ran away from the house, and he slept in the park that night. It just happened to be that day, somebody broke into the king's treasure home and stole some money, some jewels. So the guards started looking for people around the palace, and they saw this man sleeping in the park. They suspected him, and they took him, they brought him to the king, and they told him, that he's the ganav, confess, we're going to execute you. And he says he didn't do it. They didn't believe him. So on the way to the gallows, who goes with him? The priest. How do they say? How do the Catholics say? To absolution. Yeah, to give your confessions. Lahdil bidui. So he overhears this priest telling the guards, be careful, don't step on those ants. V'rachamav al kol ma'asav, the pasuk says. Hashem has pity on all his creatures, so please don't walk over there, because there's little ants there. Don't step on them. The guy says, I remember what my father says. I have to tell something to the king. I want to confess. I have something to tell the king. What is it? I just remembered something. Goes to the king. The priest is the one that stole your jewels. Are you sure? The priest is my best friend and advisor for all these years. Trust me. Check his house. Don't tell him. Check his house. They checked the priest's home, and they found all the jewels in the priest's home. King says, amazing. How did you know? My father told me before he passed away, anytime you see an individual who's too much an extreme of modesty, hasidut, respect, anything which is too much, suspect that he's a tzavor, he's a hypocrite, completely rotten. Says, my wife was like that. She was extreme, and I started suspecting that maybe this nice-looking girl, who was very simple and an orphan, I think, too, is really not honest. And it turned out that when I went back to check on her, I was right. The reason I was in the park is because they chased me away. They wanted to kill me. Yes, the king went after them, and hanged the two of them, his wife, the wife of this, and that boyfriend. So, good advice from the father saved his life. And I think he was rewarded by the king too, for finding the jewels. Being careful from people who are hypocrites. Sure. Okay, let's look at the last point. Well, before we go to the last point, part of the idea of being careful with the hypocrites is also maintaining a distance from goyim. There are a lot of nice people out there, even though they're not Jewish. But there are also a lot of people who are not good. Not necessarily bad, that they will cause you harm, but spiritually, they're not a good influence. So the Rabbi tells us to stay away, to maintain a distance from being overly friendly with the goy because of the bad influence. And that is why there's halachot, that you cannot eat from what they cooked for you, from their bread, from their wine, because one day, if you become so friendly and so chummy with them, he'll invite you to have dinner in his house, and of course he'll serve you kosher, but he'll serve you his wine, and after you drink his wine, he'll say, you know what, I think that your son should marry my daughter, or your daughter should marry my son. You know how many times this has happened in history?
It happens.
All the time. So you have to be extremely careful from becoming too close to the goy. The last point is sneut. The last point is sneut. We see in the case of Dinah. Dinah goes out because of curiosity, letayel, to take a tour of the city or the new town where they're staying, where they're living now. To check out the girls, to check out the women, and she gets caught up. Shechem finds her and rapes her. Why did this happen? She brought it upon herself, as we said before. She put herself in that situation. A woman has to know her place, even though some people don't look at it as equal rights, second class. It's not true. A woman needs to be modest, needs to be at home much more than on the outside. And she's on the outside, she has to be extremely modest and careful of what? That men should not stare at her. So a woman who wears certain clothing that seduce a man, she sins and she causes others to sin. Her avon, her sin is very, 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 very big. And her gehenom is very, very, very big. Because she is bringing it unto others. She's causing it to others. So a woman, when she goes out into the street, she does not have to wear the burqa that they wear in Afghanistan, completely. But she has to nevertheless be careful that what she does wear does not bring about eyes of observations, looking around, turning around, and saying, well, that is why Jewish girls do not wear red. The color red is a color of seduction. And there's other types of clothing also that may be in that category.
Tight clothing.
Right? Tight clothing, or anything that is intended for that. And you know what? A lot of the stylists today make clothes with that in mind.
Exactly.
To bring the man's eyes out. Take his eyes out. And that is why there's an expression in English, they dress to kill. Yes, you better believe they kill.
Yeah.
They kill you spiritually. Right. So that is the lesson that we learned from Dinah. That one has to be careful, especially a woman, that she, by the way she behaves, talks, dresses, Khalila should not be machshila, should not have somebody fall in this trap of this avon by seeing her or by talking too much to her, and as a result of this, even Khalila, even leading to a greater, much more serious avon. So anyway, as you know, the end of the story, the children of Yaakov took revenge for that because it was not something that they were going to tolerate. And this is especially during a sensitive time when Umot HaOlam, all the peoples accepted upon themselves after the Mabul, not to stray Halila, not to misbehave in this area of Arayot. Right? And here you have Shechem, doing something, against what was already common tradition, not to do these kind of things to a single woman. So what we see from this is that even though it was true that people were more careful, the woman, and this young girl, she was very, very young, the fact that she came out, and she was a beautiful girl, nevertheless, she, in a way, seduced. In a way, it was her fault that brought this about. Yeah, it doesn't excuse the man. Why was the whole city killed? Because they should have done something about it. One of the Sheva Mitzvot in the Noach, the Rambam says, in explaining this, is that they have to have a justice system. They're not allowed to tolerate it. If you tolerate people, individuals who do this kind of things, then you are culpable yourself, you're guilty. So a whole nation, a whole country, a whole people can suffer as a result of the actions A few, because they didn't do anything about it. And that is why, wars and death and all sorts of tragedies occur in places, because the system did not do anything about it. The system was corrupt. But getting back to what we were saying before, the individual himself, the girl, the woman herself, has to be extremely careful that when she goes to work, if she works amongst people who are not Jewish, or even if they're Jewish, she doesn't become too friendly. Let's go to have lunch together. Not with this man. You're a married woman. And even if you're not married and you're single, if this man is not for you, don't take your chance. There are certain areas where you have to know what your limits are. This applies to men too, but especially to women who are much more gullible and who can easily influence a man, halila, into this. That is the whole chashivut, the whole importance of the tzni'ut, of modesty.